Just seeing things from other players' perspectives is always night and day, such as the idea of the person who gave our girl the fairy very much had a different relationship with the other players as they're tied to a log and kicked off the edge. Goddamn, the brutality in such a cute and comfy way never ceases to amaze me, but this episode does a lot that I think desperately needed to do in this episode. One, Cayna actually talking with two other players who aren't an evil child trying to kill and murder things because it's just the video game, bro. To also just seeing something that is literally an event-level monster that I think it was mentioned, it was like you probably need like 200 players at a certain level to be able to deal with this. And of course, Cayna can one-shot it with a little mixture of a couple of different magics and we can call it a day. But to see just this episode in general, like in any other anime, the title of this episode, it was something like, a victory, blah, blah, blah. Just having victory in the title after kind of setting up such a catastrophe would be a spoiler in most anime. But we know Cayna is OP, we know that. And the fact that she's so OP, even other players can't comprehend just how crazy she is. They've heard rumblings of her guild. I think they said like their guild was called Cream Cheese. In any other game, you probably wouldn't be taken seriously, but we understand how this silver-haired witch kind of got her name, and I love seeing the ferocity kind of come out of Cayna. I know some people think it's too much bullying. I think it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, she generally cares for her kids, though when Mai-Mai makes some mistakes, it's nice to kind of see the PTSD because she doesn't want any more punishment. Even just the other players being like, oh god, she's gonna absolutely wreck us. But there's definitely some questions I've had after really getting the confirmation about there being more in this world other than just Cayna, and the fact that seemingly the only person who died and is a part of the Leadale world is Cayna herself. Apparently there was rumblings, there was a rumor that someone died while playing, and whether that was the reason 6 months later the servers shut down or not remains to be seen. But even though we don't know exactly what happened to these other two players, one thing has been officially confirmed. They didn't die in terms of being trapped in that world as far as they know anyway. So there's definitely a lot of possibility for this show to go in a lot more interesting directions than I think a lot of kind of like isekai transported trapped in another world type stories. Because usually it's, okay, SAO approach, they all got trapped at the same time. Most isekai approach, they got killed and things like that. But this seemingly has like a lot of different variables at play. Was it an emotional thing? Like that could very well be the main key. I mean, someone who's hooked up to life support, the only thing that gave her reasons and happiness was this game. That would make sense why she was then trapped. Is there like some godly presence allowing that, or just the general other people, right? I mean, the game server's getting shut down, I wish this would never end. Is it something in that nature of kind of like genie in the bottle and they didn't really know what the genie was going to grant until it was too late? Given the fact that it is a living and breathing world and the other players don't seem like they're really that sad about being trapped in there, more so they were just disappointed not having other real human connections from their world. But it's nice to see that they're definitely exploring it in a lot more interesting ways, because most stories at the beginning of it, they establish why things happen the way they did, or at the very end, they kind of confirm a lot of those extra details. Where this show is just saying, hey, we're gonna kind of slowly but surely, like we're cooking a stew, right? If you just slap a bunch of ingredients into the pot and you cook it for a couple of hours, it's going to be a pretty bland tasting stew because it didn't marinate, it didn't soak in those flavors. But a good author is going to write something where it just, over time, it gets more and more depth in its writing. And by the time you reach that ending, even if they further explain things, it's going to feel a lot more full of life and basically feel like the author had a plan rather than just stringing things together. And that's how you're going to have a delicious stew, something that actually sat and marinated and absorbed all those flavors. And that's what I love about this show, is that it's definitely taking its time. It's having these simple adventures, and the fact that we're not going over dramatic where it counts. Like the idea of Cayna wanting to end that kid, right? I mean, that's someone who you can't guarantee isn't going to cause a ruckus and will kill her now active family, right? If she's not around, no one can stop that kid. As we just saw with this event-level monster, had she not been there, they would have all died. Or most of them would have died. They would have had to flee, right? So it's very interesting seeing how they take it serious where it counts, but when it comes to her interacting with other players, at this point it's no longer a shock to her, and the fact that she's not like dragging things out. It's more so, oh, I recognize your guild. I actually knew your guild master at one point. And while they're definitely explaining and kind of exchanging information, it doesn't feel like we need to make it overly dramatic like I think most stories would. And just like the casual kind of video game mechanics getting further explored, like the fact that one of the magics that seemingly every player should have except this one knight here. He just never did the basic quest to get it. So the idea of exchanging information about where other guardian towers might be, and apparently you can actually give magic over to other players, is an interesting mechanic that you don't see too often, especially in a show like this, right? Usually it would just be, okay, they have a video game menu and they can do some basic things. But honestly, the more I watch the show, the more I feel like the person behind creating this, both on the anime director side as well as the source material author, I mean, they understand video games more than just what they see from a distance. They clearly were a gamer in some ways themselves, because those are the finer details that really separate an author just trying to pander to an audience versus an author who enjoys video games and the type of shit that they're writing about and wants to make something for themselves alongside the fans that are reading it. That's what's so fun about this, is just seeing the different reactions, the different simple moments, the goofy moments, but also, for me personally, the thing that sells me on continuing to want to talk about this and watch it is that I get to continue to think about what it means in the grand scheme of things. And a lot of people don't do that. They just, what they see is what they get. They either enjoy it, they hate it, they move on with their day. For me, though, I love thinking about this show, even a day or two after I finish the newest episode, just thinking about where it can lead now that we do have these extra players. Are they going to dive even deeper into their personal lives of what happened before everything hit the fan? All those little things really separate something than just being that average run-of-the-mill show. And that's why this show is one of my favorites of the season, hands down, is that it is full of personality. It's full of thought-provoking themes that aren't overly in your face, but if you choose to recognize them, it honestly enhances the viewing experience for the show tenfold, in my opinion. And I mean, seriously, the fact that we're now 8 episodes in and she's still pulling new monsters from her arsenal, I honestly thought it was going to be Cerberwolf that she was going to summon or something, but nope, we get yet again another creature. And like I said a couple of times in different videos, I love the fact that because she's such an OP high-level player, she has all these things at her fingertips. She doesn't need to go on quests to get these monsters. She's kind of like the quest giver at this point, and it's going to be fun, though. I mean, I love that moment where she makes him a giant-ass sword, and the person who probably needed the sword a bit more got a little jealous because he has a generic knight sword. It's just awesome. I'm glad that the cast is continuing to be explored at a steady enough pace, while feeling like everyone has their own personalities, time to shine. They have their pros and cons about their personalities, and I mean, it's just great to see where it's going from here. Honestly, with the way we have been going in terms of pacing, I don't think we need to really reveal any more players at this point. If they do, cool. But I think with the cast that we have now, with 3 other confirmed players as it stands, I think it'll be a lot more fun getting to know them rather than continuing to explore the cast in that way, because if you do add in so many different people being like, yeah, I don't actually know what happened, but if we get to really dive into the personal stories of, you know, how they felt in their original life, that could either give credit to the idea that I have. Is it an emotional thing that trapped them there? Or, you know, did they have all these great lives, and it adds to theories of maybe just throwing other darts at the wall saying, okay, if it's not emotional, maybe it's just something like where they logged in at the same time. Is there a time discrepancy in terms of like the real world versus the game? We know some people have been here for years, others months. But in the real world, did it all actually happen around the same time? Because apparently, you know, rumors, someone died and 6 months later the game shut down. Given the fact that there is such a time discrepancy with them in the game, there could also be some weird time shenanigans going on with so many other different things. And I don't know, like, there's all these questions I have, but at the same time, I don't feel like I'm having these questions because of wrong reasons, right? Sometimes authors, they can string along readers and viewers being like, oh, you know, you should be theorizing, but I don't actually have a plan of where to go with this, so you're going to be disappointed by the time you get those explanations. It wants to make you think because it has something cool to tell you down the line. And that's the type of stuff that makes an anime a lot more enjoyable than so many other different isekai fantasy shows out there. Of course, as always, thoughts and feelings if you have any theories. If this episode got your mind racing as much as it did mine, let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.